The camera's red light blinked like a heartbeat as I leaned into the microphone, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. Jamie Harlan isn't just the golden boy of Washington. He's gay, and I've got the proof right here. The words sliced through the live broadcast, the control room exploding into shouts behind the glass. But my eyes stayed glued to the split-screen feed of him in his office, his face draining of color, that piercing blue gaze drilling into the lens like it could reach through and strangle me. In that frozen second, I knew I'd shattered more than a career. I'd cracked open a truth that could either bury us both or bind us in ways I never imagined. Weeks later, the fallout had settled into a dull roar of headlines and hate, mail piling up on my doorstep in Brooklyn, but nothing prepared me for the knock at midnight. I peered through the peephole, heart slamming against my ribs, and there he was, Jamie Harlan, the man whose life I'd torched on national TV, standing in the dim hallway light, his overcoat dusted with New York's relentless December sleet. He didn't look like the polished senator from the campaign ads anymore. His jaw was shadowed with stubble, eyes rimmed red from what I could only guess were sleepless nights or suppressed rage. "Alex," he said, voice low and edged with something I couldn't place. Anger? Exhaustion? "Open the door. We need to talk." I hesitated, fingers hovering over the lock, every instinct screaming to bolt it tighter. As an investigative reporter for Channel 7 News, I'd built my career on digging up dirt, but this? Outing Jamie Harlan as gay during a live segment on political corruption had been a desperate swing, a Hail Mary to salvage a story that was slipping away. I'd uncovered emails, anonymous sources, a hidden life in the shadows of Capitol Hill. Proof that the man running for re-election on a platform of family values was living a lie. But seeing him now, real and raw on my threshold, made the betrayal feel personal, visceral. What if he'd come to sue me into oblivion? Or worse, what if he saw right through my righteous facade to the mess of my own unresolved feelings? The door creaked open anyway, because some part of me, the reckless, truth-chasing part, couldn't resist. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, bringing the chill of the street with him, his presence filling the cramped living room like smoke. My apartment was a testament to single-life chaos, stacks of notebooks on the coffee table, a half-eaten pizza box from last night, the faint hum of the city filtering through the fire escape window. Jamie shrugged off his coat, draping it over the arm of my sagging couch, and for a moment, we just stood there, two strangers who'd shared a spotlight neither wanted. "You destroyed everything," he said finally, not yelling, which threw me more than if he had. His voice was quiet, laced with a weariness that hit harder than any accusation. He sank onto the couch, rubbing his temples, and I caught a glimpse of the silver cufflinks glinting on his sleeves, remnants of the life he'd curated so carefully. "My marriage is in ruins, my donors are fleeing, and half the party wants my head. But you sit here like it's just another Tuesday scoop." I crossed my arms, leaning against the kitchenette counter to put some distance between us. Guilt twisted in my gut, sharp and unwelcome, but I shoved it down. "It was the truth, Jamie. You were using your position to block equality bills while hiding who you are. If you'd been honest." "Honest?" He laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off the walls. "In D.C., where being gay means instant disqualification. You think I chose this closet? It was survival." His eyes met mine then, unflinching, and I saw the layers peel back, the polished facade cracking to reveal a man who'd spent years compartmentalizing his heart. I'd met him once before, months ago at a fundraiser gala, where our hands had brushed over a glass of champagne, and I'd felt that spark, electric, forbidden. I'd buried it under professional detachment, but now it flickered back to life, dangerous and unbidden. I slid into the armchair across from him, the leather creaking under my weight. "Why are you here? If you want to yell or threaten a lawsuit, save it." "I get it, I crossed a line." He leaned forward, elbows on knees, studying me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Because despite everything, I don't hate you, Alex. I should. God knows I tried. But that night on TV, when you said it, part of me felt free. Terrified, but free." His confession hung there, raw and unexpected, and I felt the room tilt. This wasn't the script I'd written in my head, the vengeful politician storming in for blood. This was something messier, more human. We talked until the sleet turned to dawn's gray light, filtering through the blinds. He spoke of the pressure from his family, the sham marriage to Emily that had started as convenience and soured into quiet resentment, the anonymous hookups that left him hollow. I listened, sharing fragments of my own story. Growing up in a conservative Ohio town where queer was a slur whispered in locker rooms, coming out in college only to face doors slamming shut. By the time he stood to leave, promising to return, the air between us hummed with unspoken possibility and peril. As he paused at the door, hand on the knob, he turned back. "This isn't over, Alex." Not by a long shot. He was gone before I could process the weight of that promise, leaving behind the faint scent of his cologne, sandalwood and citrus, a reminder that lingered like a bruise. I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped out like veins, replaying the night. Why hadn't he lashed out? Why did his vulnerability make me want to pull him closer instead of pushing him away? As a journalist, I'd always prided myself on objectivity, but objectivity be damned. This felt like the start of a story I couldn't report on without losing myself in it. The next morning brought the inevitable backlash. My inbox overflowed with death threats from Jamie's rabid supporters, trolls calling me everything from agenda-pushing libtard to worse slurs that dredged up old wounds. At the station, my boss, Rita, a chain-smoking veteran with a soft spot for underdogs, pulled me into her office, the walls plastered with yellowed clippings of her glory days. "You lit a match in a powder keg, kid," she said, exhaling smoke like a dragon. "Great TV, but now the network's getting heat. Lay low, or you'll be covering dog shows in Jersey." I nodded, but laying low wasn't in my DNA. Instead, I dove deeper, chasing leads on the corruption angle I'd buried under the outing. Jamie's votes against LGBTQ+ rights weren't just hypocrisy. They tied into shady lobbying from big pharma donors who'd funneled millions into his campaigns. If I could expose that, maybe I'd redeem the damage, turn personal ruin into public good. But as I pored over documents in a coffee shop on Bedford Avenue, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A text: "Meet me at the pier, 8 p.m. Come alone. Jay." The Brooklyn Bridge Park pier stretched out like a skeletal finger into the East River, city lights twinkling across the water like distant stars mocking my nerves. I arrived early, hands shoved in my coat pockets against the biting wind, scanning the shadows for signs of a trap. Was this where the revenge played out? A shove into the dark water, no witnesses? Paranoia, sure, but after the threats, it didn't feel unfounded. He emerged from the gloom like a ghost, collar turned up, hands in his pockets mirroring mine. No entourage, no security, just Jamie, looking smaller against the vast night sky. "I shouldn't be here," he admitted as we walked the wooden planks, our footsteps sinking in uneasy rhythm. "But after last night, I can't stop thinking about what you said on air. Not the outing, the part where you called me out for the bills. You're right. I was scared." We stopped at the railing, gripping the cold metal as ferries chugged by below. He told me about his first love, a boy in boarding school whose rejection after their kiss sent him spiraling into denial. "I built walls so high, I forgot how to climb them," he murmured, voice nearly lost to the wind. I shared my own scars. The father who disowned me after college graduation, the ex-boyfriend who sold my coming-out story to a tabloid for a quick buck. In that shared vulnerability, a bridge formed, fragile, but real. But trust is a luxury neither of us could afford yet. As we turned to leave, headlights swept the pier from a black SUV idling at the entrance. Jamie tensed, his hand brushing mine in a fleeting touch that sent sparks up my arm. "My aide," he whispered. "He doesn't know about this." The "this" hung heavy. Our conversation, the pull between us. We parted with a nod, but as I watched him slide into the car, I wondered if the real danger wasn't the outing, but the hope flickering to life. Days blurred into a tense routine, dodging paparazzi outside my building, fielding calls from activists who hailed me as a hero while others branded me a traitor to the community. Jamie's texts became a lifeline. Cryptic at first, "Stay safe," then warmer, "Heard your segment on police reform." Bold. One evening, as snow flaked the city into silence, he showed up again, this time with takeout from a hole-in-the-wall Thai place near my station. "Peace offering," he said, holding up the bag like a white flag. We ate cross-legged on the floor, the steam from pad thai curling between us, barriers crumbling with each bite. He laughed, a genuine, unguarded sound, at my story of botching my first on-camera report by tripping over the anchor desk. I teased him about his stiff campaign speeches, mimicking his buttoned-up delivery until he shoved my shoulder playfully. For hours, the world outside faded, leaving just us, two men navigating the wreckage of truth and desire. Yet the idol shattered with a knock, sharp, insistent. Through the peephole, Emily's face stared back, her blonde hair disheveled, eyes puffy from tears. Jamie froze, fork midway to his mouth. "What is she doing here?" he hissed. But I was already opening the door, because running from confrontations was never my style. She burst in like a hurricane, coat shedding snow onto the rug. "Jamie? What the hell? I've been calling you for hours." Her gaze flicked to me, recognition dawning with venom. "You, the reporter who ruined us." Emily Harlan, the picture-perfect wife, now unraveling before us, her poise cracking under the strain of scandal. She'd been complicit in the facade, but now, with the world watching, resentment boiled over. Jamie stood, hands raised placatingly. This isn't." "Isn't what? Another secret meeting?" She whirled on me, voice breaking. "You exposed him, and now you're what? His confidant? Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To our life?" Her words landed like blows, forcing me to confront the collateral damage. Emily wasn't the villain. She was a casualty, trapped in a marriage built on lies, her own ambitions as a congressional aide now tainted. The argument escalated, voices overlapping in a cacophony of hurt and accusation. Jamie defended me half-heartedly, but his eyes pleaded for understanding. I slipped out to the fire escape, letting the cold air numb the chaos inside. From there, I watched them through the frost-laced window, gestures sharp, then softening, a hug that looked more like surrender than solace. When she left, Jamie found me shivering on the metal stairs. "She's right," he said, wrapping his scarf around my neck without a word. "I heard her. And you're in the crossfire now." That night marked the first fracture in our fragile connection, a reminder that love, if that's what this was budding into, came laced with thorns. But as he pulled me inside, his hand lingering on my arm, I felt the pull strengthen, defying the odds stacked against us. The weeks that followed tested that pull like steel in a forge. Jamie's Senate seat hung by a thread, investigations launched into his finances, whispers of resignation circling like vultures. He threw himself into damage control, public apologies that rang hollow to my ears, photo ops with Emily that screamed scripted normalcy. Our meetings became stolen moments. A quick coffee in a nondescript diner in Queens, where he'd vent about the hypocrisy of colleagues who'd patted his back one day and shunned him the next. Late-night walks along the High Line, where the elevated tracks offered a brief illusion of escape from prying eyes. I, meanwhile, chased the bigger story, the lobbying scandal that linked Jamie's votes to a network of donors profiting off denied health care for queer youth. Sources dried up, intimidated by the backlash, but one lead burned bright. A whistleblower from his campaign staff, a young woman named Lena who'd quit in disgust. She met me in a dimly lit bar in Hell's Kitchen, nursing a gin and tonic, her dark curls framing a face etched with moral fatigue. "Jamie's not the monster you painted," she said, sliding a USB drive across the table. "But the people pulling his strings? They're poison. Start with Victor Kane, big pharma exec, funnels cash through shell packs." The drive held emails, ledgers, smoking guns that could topple empires. But as I dug, paranoia crept in. Anonymous calls at odd hours, my apartment key turning in the lock when I swore I'd bolted it. Was it Jamie's enemies, or something closer? One night, after a fruitless stakeout outside Kane's Manhattan penthouse, I returned home to find Jamie waiting on my stoop, breath fogging in the frigid air. "You're in over your head," he said, pulling me into a fierce hug that caught me off guard. His body against mine was solid, reassuring, an anchor in the storm. "I came to warn you, back off Kane. He's dangerous." Inside, over mugs of spiked hot chocolate, he confessed his own regrets. "I took the money because I thought it was the only way to stay in the game, to push for incremental change from the inside. But it corrupted me, Alex. Made me complicit in the very discrimination I feared." His hand covered mine on the table, thumb tracing circles that sent warmth pooling in my chest. In that touch, I saw the man he could be, unburdened, authentic. But doubt lingered. Was this redemption or manipulation to bury the story? Our first real kiss happened impulsively, born of frustration after a heated argument about trust. I'd accused him of withholding more secrets. He'd fired back that my ambition blinded me to the human cost. Words flew like shrapnel until he cupped my face, silencing me with lips that tasted of cocoa and desperation. It was brief, electric, a collision of need and fear that left us both breathless, foreheads pressed together. "This scares me," he whispered. "You scare me, because you make me want to burn it all down." But bliss is fleeting in our world. The next day, Lena vanished. Her apartment gutted, phone dead, a note scrawled on her door, "Stop digging, or you're next." Panic clawed at me as I raced to Jamie's office on Capitol Hill, the marble halls echoing my footsteps like a tomb. He wasn't there. His aide stonewalled me, eyes darting nervously. Desperate, I called Emily, who picked up on the third ring, voice strained. "Alex, this is about Lena, isn't it? Jamie's been frantic. Meet me at the Lincoln Memorial, midnight." The monument loomed white and ghostly under sodium lamps, shadows pooling like ink. Emily waited by the reflecting pool, bundled in a wool coat, her usual polish frayed. "She's safe," she said without preamble, glancing over her shoulder. "I helped her disappear. New name, bus to Chicago. But you need to know, Jamie's protecting you. Kane's men tailed you last night." Her eyes softened, a flicker of empathy cutting through the bitterness. "I hate you for starting this, but I see why he looks at you like that. Like your oxygen." We talked then, woman to man, walls tumbling. Emily revealed her own secrets, not straight as the public believed, but trapped in a marriage that stifled her. "We stayed together for the optics," she admitted. "But now, it's over. And maybe that's freedom for both of us." As she walked away, she pressed a burner phone into my hand. "For Jamie, tell him I'm done pretending." I found him holed up in a safe house in Georgetown, a nondescript brownstone with blackout curtains. He pulled me inside, doors slamming shut behind us, and for a moment, we just held each other, the weight of the world pressing in. "I can't lose you to this," he murmured into my hair. But as we pored over Lena's files by lamplight, a new twist emerged. One email chain implicated not just Kane, but Jamie's closest ally, Senator Harlan's chief of staff, a man I'd interviewed months ago, all smiles and sound bites. Betrayal upon betrayal. That discovery ignited a firestorm. Jamie confronted his aide the next morning in a closed-door meeting that leaked like a sieve, headlines screaming, "Harlan staffer quits amid scandal." The press frenzy peaked, cameras swarming my building, forcing me underground to a friend's sublet in Harlem. Isolation bred doubt. Was Jamie playing me, using our connection to deflect blame? A late-night call from an unknown number. Kane himself hissed threats. "Drop the story, or your boyfriend's career ends in cuffs." The word boyfriend stung, a label too premature, too vulnerable. When Jamie arrived hours later, face gaunt from stress, I confronted him. "Are you in this with them? Is that why you're always one step ahead?" Hurt flashed in his eyes, raw and unguarded. "Alex, if I wanted you gone, you'd be gone. I'm here because I choose you, flaws, fame, and all." His plea cracked my defenses, leading to a night of quiet confessions, mapping each other's scars like sacred text. Yet dawn brought escalation. A package arrived at the station, photos of us on the pier, the High Line, stolen moments turned weapons. Someone was watching, closing in. Rita pulled strings for protection, but as Jamie and I huddled in a diner booth plotting our next move, his phone lit up with Emily's name. "She's been subpoenaed," he said, voice hollow. "They'll drag her through the mud to get to me." The web tightened, pulling friends and lovers into its strands, forcing us to question if love could survive the siege. United by necessity, Jamie and I became unlikely allies, pooling resources in a war room of my makeshift office. A corner table at a 24-hour laundromat in Midtown, dryers humming white noise to drown out eavesdroppers. We mapped connections on napkins. Kane's PACs funding anti-LGBTQ+ ads, Jamie's votes as leverage, the chief of staff as the linchpin. "If we take down the aid publicly," I proposed, pin scratching furiously. It forces Kane's hand. He panics, makes mistakes. Jamie nodded, but worry etched lines around his mouth. And my seat? The party? I'm toxic now. Vulnerability colored his tone. A man stripped bare, and I reached across the table, squeezing his hand. Then fight for something real. Us. The truth. Our eyes locked, a silent vow amid the spin cycle's drone. That partnership deepened our bond. Late nights decoding files turned into shared dreams of a future beyond scandal. Tentative talks of road trips to the Grand Canyon. Lazy Sundays without secrets. But external forces conspired against us. Protests erupted outside Jamie's office, a mix of supporters chanting Harlan for equality, and haters hurling epithets that echoed the ugliest corners of my past. One evening, as I navigated the throng for an interview, a bottle sailed from the crowd, shattering at my feet, glass shards nicking my ankle, blood mixing with rain-slicked pavement. Security whisked me away, but the message was clear. The hate was personal now. Jamie insisted I stay with him after that, his Virginia townhouse a fortress of high fences and armed guards. Emily had moved out, papers filed quietly, leaving echoes in the empty rooms. We cooked dinner together, burnt pasta and overcooked garlic bread, laughing at the domestic absurdity. Who knew the senator couldn't boil water? I teased, and he retaliated by flicking sauce at my cheek, the playfulness dissolving into a slow dance in the kitchen, his arms around my waist, our breaths mingling. It was innocence reclaimed, a bubble of normalcy in chaos. Yet bubbles burst. Midway through the night, alarms blared, motion sensors tripped in the backyard. Guards swarmed, but Jamie and I barricaded in the study, hearts pounding as flashlights sliced the darkness outside. Intruders, a voice crackled over the intercom. Possibly paparazzi, but armed. We waited, huddled on the floor amid leather-bound books, his hand in mine a lifeline. When cleared, the lead guard reported. A drone, likely spying gear, crashed into the pool. Sabotage or warning. Sleep evaded us after, bodies tangled on the guest bed, not for passion but comfort, skin on skin a shield against fear. I never wanted this for you, Jamie whispered in the dark. The danger, the isolation. I traced the curve of his shoulder, feeling the tremor in his frame. It's not you. It's the world we fight. And I'd choose it again for this. Our lips met softly, a seal on unspoken promises, but dawn revealed the cost, my ankle wound infected, forcing a hospital visit under alias. There, amid beeping monitors and sterile smells, another blow landed. Rita called. The network suspended me pending review, citing ethical breaches. It's Kane's lawyers, she growled. Pulling strings. Rage boiled, but Jamie's presence steadied me, his advocacy fierce as he rallied allies, queer activists, fellow reporters, to my defense. For the first time, I saw him wield power not for self-preservation, but protection. Our counterstrike launched from a nondescript motel in Bethesda, laptops glowing like campfires. Lena, safe in hiding, fed us final intel via encrypted chat, coordinates for a Kane donor meet in Atlantic City. Go public, she urged, before they silence you. Jamie hesitated, the politician in him warring with the man. If I testify, it's perjury charges. My legacy. Screw legacy. I snapped, frustration spilling over. What's a seat in the Senate worth if it's built on broken backs? The argument raged, voices rising until he deflated, nodding. You're right. For you, for us, I'll do it. Resolution brought clarity, and in its wake, a deeper intimacy. Not just lovers, but warriors side by side. The Atlantic City sting was a masterclass in tension. Disguised as bellhops, we infiltrated the casino's VIP lounge, bugs planted in crystal decanters. Whispers of bribes flowed, Kane's voice gravelly, damning. But extraction turned nightmare. Security spotted us, a chase through neon-lit halls, slot machines blurring into streaks. Jamie shoved me into a service elevator, slamming the close button as fists pounded the doors. Go. I'll cover, he yelled, but I yanked him in, the descent a freefall of adrenaline. We burst into the alley, lungs burning, hailing a cab that sped us back to DC borders. In the back seat, high on survival, we laughed hysterically, hands clasped, the thrill binding us tighter. But triumph soured at the motel. News alerts blared Emily's arrest, leaked docs framing her as the leak. They used her, Jamie roared, pacing, to draw me out. Guilt ravaged him, and I held him through the breakdown, rocking like a child, whispering assurances that felt hollow. This pivot forced a reckoning. Emily's bail hearing loomed, and Jamie vowed to turn state's evidence, trading his secrets for hers. But as we prepared, a ghost from my past surfaced, my ex, Marcus, now a rising star at a rival network, offering a deal. Drop the Harlan story, he texted, or I air your dirty laundry. Ohio boy who ran from family shame. Blackmail, poisoned with familiarity. I confessed to Jamie over burner phones, his response fierce. Fight him. We're in this together. The hearing was a circus, cameras flashing, protesters clashing with police. Jamie testified first, voice steady as he detailed the corruption web, fingers trembling only when he glanced at Emily across the room. Her eyes met his, not with hate, but gratitude, a silent absolution. My turn came next, Marcus lurking in the gallery, smirk predatory. But bolstered by Jamie's nod from the stand, I unleashed the full scope, Kane's empire crumbling under scrutiny. Marcus's face paled as recorders captured every word. Victory tasted bittersweet. Emily walked free, charges dropped in a plea deal that snared the chief of staff. But as confetti metaphorically rained, headlines hailing Harlan's redemption, personal storms brewed. Jamie's party ousted him, whispers of primary challenges. It's over, he said one night, staring at the Potomac from his balcony. My career. I pulled him close, chin on his shoulder. It's beginning. With me. But doubt shadowed his eyes. And mine too. Could we build on ruins? Spring thawed DC's chill, but our wounds festered in subtler ways. Jamie retreated to the townhouse, jobless and adrift, volunteering at a queer youth center while dodging interview requests. I returned to the station under probation, anchoring fluff pieces that chafed like ill-fitting suits. Our dates, picnics in Rock Creek Park, indie films in Adams Morgan, were oases, but tension simmered beneath. His resentment toward my ongoing spotlight, my fear he'd resent the life I'd upended. The first Real crack appeared during Pride Month planning. As grand martial invites poured in, Jamie declined, citing healing time. I outed myself on your terms, he said over dinner at a cozy Ethiopian spot, injera steaming between us. Now I get to choose my pace. Hurt flared. Did he blame me still? It's not about terms, I countered. It's hiding again. The meal ended in silence, him storming out into the rain. Days passed radio silent, my texts unanswered, anxiety gnawing. Then, a delivery, a leather-bound journal, his handwriting scrawled on the first page. For the stories we haven't told. Read when ready. Pages chronicled his inner world, fears of abandonment, dreams of advocacy untainted by politics. One entry gutted me. Alex makes me brave, but what if I'm not enough? Tears blurred ink as understanding dawned. His withdrawal wasn't rejection, but self-doubt's grip. I showed up at the youth center unannounced, kids' laughter spilling from open doors. He was mid-story circle, animatedly reading from a book on Harvey Milk, eyes lighting when he saw me. After, in the supply closet amid crayons and posters, we collided, apologies tumbling, bodies pressing close in forgiveness. I'm scared of losing you to this limbo, I admitted. He cupped my face, thumb brushing my lip. Then let's build something new. Together. Recommitment sparked reinvention. Jamie launched a nonprofit, Shadows to Light, mentoring queer politicians on authentic runs. I co-hosted a podcast, Uncloseted, interviewing survivors of discrimination. Our lives intertwined publicly now, joint panels at GLAAD events, where we'd share the mic, his hand brushing mine under tables, a private code. Emily even joined an episode, her candor about by invisibility earning applause, our trio forging an unlikely friendship from ashes. But prejudice's shadow lengthened. At a fundraiser in Georgetown, a donor, old guard, face like weathered granite, cornered Jamie. You're brave, son, but this lifestyle? It dooms you. The words landed like acid, Jamie's smile fracturing. Later, in the coat room, he unraveled. What if he's right? What if loving you costs everything? I held him, fury simmering. It already has. And we'd do it again. That incident unearthed deeper layers. Jamie confessed therapy sessions uncovering repressed trauma, his father's homophobic rants, internalized shame manifesting as overwork. I opened up about my Ohio ghosts. A brother who ghosted post coming out, a mother whose silence wounded deeper than words. Vulnerability bonded us, turning pain into power. We attended couples counseling, a queer therapist guiding us through trust exercises that felt revolutionary. Eye-gazing that dissolved walls, shared letters of fears laid bare. Summer swelled with milestones. Our first vacation, a cabin in the Shenandoah, hiking trails where we carved initials into bark like defiant teens. No cameras, just us, skinny dipping in streams, PG-rated splashes and laughter, stargazing with whispered futures. "Marry me?" he murmured one night, ringless but earnest. I laughed, heart full. "When the world's ready." For now, this return brought turbulence. My podcast hit viral, drawing hate mail that escalated to doxing. Address leaked, tires slashed. Jamie's nonprofit faced defunding threats from conservative lobbies. United, we fought. Op-eds in the Post, rallies with allies like Lena, now an organizer in Chicago. A turning point came at a congressional hearing on equality bills. Jamie testifying, voice thunderous, me in the audience, pride swelling as he quoted my words. Truth isn't a weapon, it's a light. Post-hearing, celebration turned confessional. Over rooftop cocktails, Emily pulled us aside. "I'm leaving D.C., grad school in California, fresh start." Hugs exchanged, bittersweet. "Take care of him," she told me, winking. Alone later, Jamie proposed formally, a simple band from a DuPont Circle jeweler. Not for show, for us. Tears pricked as I accepted, sealing with a kiss under city lights. Autumn winds carried new threats. Kane, out on bail, sued for defamation, dragging our relationship into depositions. Intimate moments twisted into tabloid fodder. "How does it feel to destroy a man's life for ratings?" his lawyer sneered. I fired back. "Feels like justice." But privately, exhaustion crept. Jamie's insomnia worsened, nightmares of exposure replaying. One night, he woke screaming, and I soothed him back, but dawn found him distant. "What if this breaks us?" he voiced my own fear. Counseling intensified, unearthing a twist. My ambition masked abandonment issues, pushing Jamie away subconsciously through workaholism. His response? A weekend retreat at a Virginia vineyard. No phones, just vines and vows renewed. Amid harvest scents, we recommitted, boundaries set, love prioritized. Returning empowered, we faced court head-on, evidence mounting against Kane. Victory echoed in dismissed charges, his empire crumbling. But personal climax brewed. Jamie's primary run announcement. Platform unapologetically pro-LGBTQ+. Backlash roared. Death threats, family estrangement. But support surged, volunteers flocking. Campaign trail bonded us further. Stump speeches where I'd whisper encouragements. Hotel rooms for debriefs laced with laughter. Election night loomed, a high-wire act. Polls neck and neck, scandals resurfacing. As returns trickled in, nerves frayed. Jamie pacing, me steadying with touches. Midnight confetti fell, when jubilation erupted, but in the quiet hotel suite after, he pulled me close. "Couldn't have without you." Our kiss deepened commitment, future vast. Yet, as winter circled, a final shadow, my mother's letter, postmarked Ohio. "Saw you on TV. Proud, son." Doors open. Forgiveness's door cracked, mirroring ours. The letter arrived like a time capsule, yellowed envelope trembling in my hands as snow blanketed D.C. once more. Jamie watched from the kitchen, coffee steaming, his new office, senator-elect, scattered with transition memos. "Read it," he urged gently, sensing the war within. Words flowed, apologies for silence, regrets for lost years, an invitation to Christmas dinner. Not absolution, but a bridge. I folded it away, emotions churning. "It's a start," I told him, pulling into an embrace that grounded me. Jamie's transition team buzzed with energy, diverse faces, queer staffers, activists, mirroring the change he'd ignited. I embedded as unofficial advisor, my reporting lens now inward-focused. But old habits died hard. A tip about lingering Kane allies in the Senate drew me back to investigation mode. Not again, Jamie protested during a strategy session, maps of districts unrolled like battle plans. We won clean. Let it go. His plea stemmed from protectiveness, but it chafed my independence. This isn't about scoops, it's safeguarding what you've built. Arguments simmered, resolved in compromise. Joint probe, boundaries respected. Digging unearthed a mole in his team, a junior aide, Kane's plant, leaking schedules. Confrontation was surgical, quiet firing, referral to authorities. Trust restored, but the incident highlighted fragility. Power's allure tempting corruption anew. Holiday season amplified tensions. My Ohio trip loomed, a solo reckoning. Jamie offered to join, but family dynamics daunted. Meet the parents? After everything. I joked, masking nerves. He squeezed my hand. When you're ready. I flew solo, landing in Cleveland's frost, rental car crunching gravel to the farmhouse. Mother waited on the porch, older, softer, hug tentative but real. Dinner was awkward, small talk skirting edges, brother absent but mentioned fondly. We were wrong, she said over pie, tears glistening. Love you, Alex. Always did. Catharsis washed over, not full healing, but progress. Return brought Jamie's family drama. His parents, conservative holdouts, demanded a visit. Ultimatum laced with conditional love. Show them the real you. I encouraged, driving to their Virginia estate. Dinner was a minefield. Father's gruff silences, mother's veiled barbs about lifestyles. Jamie held firm, sharing our story, not a scandal, but triumph. Breakthrough flickered when father clasped his shoulder. Proud, son, even if I don't get it. Incremental, like policy wins. New Year dawned with momentum. Jamie's swearing-in ceremony was electric. Capitol Dome gleaming, supporters cheering as he took the oath, hand on a rainbow-embossed Bible. I sat front row, heart swelling, our eyes meeting in vow. Post-ceremony reception swirled with toasts, but we stole away to the Russell Senate office rooftop, city sprawling below. To us, he toasted with champagne, ring glinting. The story that wrote itself. But narratives twist. A fresh scandal brewed, not Jamie's, but mine. Marcus, my ex, resurfaced with a tell-all manuscript, peddling lies about our past to undermine my credibility. Excerpts leaked, fabricated affairs, ethical lapses. Backlash hit, sponsors pulling from the podcast, Rita's support wavering. Fight dirty if you must, she advised. I refused, opting transparency. A live episode confessing vulnerabilities, humanizing the hits. Jamie's response was fierce advocacy, press conference denouncing smears, allies amplifying truth. The counterpunch landed when Lena, back in D.C., uncovered Marcus's own skeletons, plagiarized stories, payoffs. Exposure forced retraction, his career imploding. Vindication bittersweet. I visited him in a dingy bar, not gloating, but closing the circle. We both chased light in dark ways, I said. He nodded, broken but reflective. Mercy over malice. Spring bloomed with stability. Our lives synced, mornings jogging the mall, evenings cooking with wine-fueled debates on bills. Jamie championed the Equality Act redux, my reporting amplifying voices. Twists lingered, a health scare for Rita, pulling me into mentorship, Jamie's mentorship program expanding nationwide. Through it, our love deepened. Anniversaries marked with letters, not gifts. Therapy evolving to celebrate strengths. Climax crested in summer heat. Kane's trial loomed, our testimonies pivotal. Courtroom drama unfolded, his defense painting us as vendettas-driven lovers. On stand, Jamie dismantled it. Love doesn't blind, it clarifies. My turn echoed, details precise, passion underscoring justice. Verdict, guilty, empire dismantled. Jubilation outside, protesters turning celebrants, hugs from strangers. Fall brought reflection. At a queer film festival gala, Emily, thriving in Cali, reunited, toasting our found family. Later, Jamie and I danced under chandeliers, whispers of future, adoption dreams, perhaps a run for higher office. No more secrets, he promised. I smiled. Just us, writing the ending. Winter closed the circle. Back in Brooklyn for my roots, renovating the apartment into our space. Jamie joined, tools in hand, laughter echoing. One snowy eve, fire crackling, he knelt anew. "Marry me, Alex." "For real?" Yes tumbled out, rings sliding on, sealing years of struggle into forever. Yet life defies tidy bows. A new bill threatened, anti-trans measures from holdouts. We geared up, allies rallied, fight eternal. But side by side, unbowed, we faced it. Love's true test not in calm, but storms navigated together. The door that once hid secrets now swung wide, inviting the world to witness. Two men, forged in fire, unbreakable.